okay to go ahead and get started. I appreciate you guys all joining and clearing out your schedules for us. I'm glad to see you guys here. We do have a handout in the webinar menu, so if you guys are able to grab that and save it, I've got a PDF there of the slides that we're using this morning. And if you're not able to grab that, just shoot me a message with your contact information. I can certainly send that out to you guys if you need it. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm glad you guys could join again. Welcome. My name is Austin, and I will be your host for our little hangout here this morning. We're going to be talking about Equinox meetings online today. Webinar where we're going to just discuss a few features and talk about how Equinox meetings online can help improve our daily work life. So I'm an IP Office systems engineer here with Agility. Before we get started and dive into our discussion, I just want to hit on a couple of bullet point reminders. Of course, our website, agilitycg.com. I want to remind everybody about that because we do have our calendar of events over there. It's been redesigned a little bit, so it might look different than the last time you've been there. Our webinars are listed there again in our calendar of events, so be sure to check those out. If there's any topics that interest you, you can let us know about that. If there's anything that we don't have scheduled that you would like to see covered, then you can certainly give us that suggestion by emailing us at info@agilitycg.com, and we'll take all those suggestions into consideration. Of course, we do have support contracts, which contain free upgrade licenses. We have our cloud-based offering. You can let us know about those interests also at info@agilitycg.com. And if you ever have any tech support questions or concerns about your current phone system, or if you ever like to discuss any upgrade options, you can let us know about those at support@agilitycg.com. So we've had a few more folks join us this morning. Good morning, everyone. We're glad you're here. We're going to talk about Avaya Equinox meetings online today. So thanks for joining us. Today's agenda is to, my goal for today is to kind of move us from a place of knowledge, hopefully ending up in a place of wisdom. Really want to get us to a place where we can be truly effective and we can, use what works and be sure that, we understand what it is that we do and why we do it when it comes to meetings. Our discussion this morning is going to revolve around meetings, which is a word that we may find boring or inconvenient, something that we may, fill us with dread. Nobody likes meetings all the time, of course, but Avaya's newest software suite that's released this past spring has a lot of answers and design simplicity built into it that will hopefully remove boredom and inconvenience from that for us. So finally today we're going to open up things for a bit of a Q&A at the close of our time. You guys have given us some really great questions during past webinars, so I am honestly anxious to hear what you think and what it is that you want to learn about our topic today. So let's go ahead and dive in, get started. We're going to start from a place of knowledge, okay? Everybody in life is knowledgeable about a few things, right? We all have hobbies, we all have interests, and maybe we even excel at a few things. But is our knowledge always what it seems? Let's go ahead and share an amusing example here of misplaced, misapplied knowledge. You guys know I always like to start off with a little bit of a joke to keep things a little loose and informal and enjoyable together. So here we have an amusing little clip from a show called Community, which is based on a community college campus. And here we have an older student. His character name is Pierce, played by Chevy Chase. He's requesting permission to use a computer from one of his co-students. And her response is, "Pierce, there's like dozens of computers that you can use here." And his response is, "Well, yeah, but my email's on this one." So just kind of an amusing happenstance here where we have someone who doesn't quite understand the functionality and the design of email, right? Or even furthermore, how computers work. Sometimes the best that we can do ourselves at work and in our daily lives is to simply use what we have and to do what we know, right? It's a method that feels safe because it's unchallenging, it's familiar, and it's comfortable. But as we see here with Pierce, doing what you know is not always prudent, and it may not even be relevant anymore. Therefore, we need to accept that our processes may be flawed or may even be wrong, and we have to have the courage and the willingness to change. Especially if we know for a fact that we can do better. And if courage cannot be mustered, and we can't make an impactful change, perhaps our nagging conscience can get the job done, right? Much like a grouchy high school teacher who always asks us a favorite question. And that favorite question that teacher loved to ask is a question that I'm going to pose for us this morning in regards to our work environment and when it comes to meetings and our time efficiency. And that irritating question is this really your best work? Is this really the best that you can do? Can't we do better when it comes to our work environment, our daily workflow, and how it is that we are able to schedule meetings and get it done efficiently? Well, the answer is yes, of course we can do better. And with Agility and Equinox meetings online, I know that we can make that happen. First, let's start off about moving towards technology wisdom. Here we have something that gives me a very warm, fuzzy feeling, a nice, clean work environment, right? A clean desk like this one, however, is not terribly sustainable or realistic. Throughout our workday, we have tools that we rely upon heavily to get our jobs done in order to keep our bosses and our customers alike all happy and attended to. But what if a clean, sleek, effective workspace is actually a realistic option? If your environment is anything like mine, simply sitting down to get started for the day requires a bit of upkeep and maintenance beforehand. So some of us live and die on the telephone, and if we're not married to our telephones, then we're certainly, stuck in front of the computer all day. And if we're not on the computer or the phone, then we're probably messaging or chatting with a colleague, maybe reviewing our calendar of events for the day, returning missed calls and checking voicemails. And we might also be digging into our contacts or directory in order to find a vendor or a contractor to help us on a project. And if we find that contractor or vendor, we may need to think about adding them to a favorites list if there's somebody that we contact a lot. Suddenly you may get pulled into a meeting, and then on the fly you're having to decide whether to answer that urgent text message or take that cell phone call. And suddenly your organized, peaceful workspace has become chaotic and overwhelming. Well, if we hit the reset button and all cards on the table, I've used Avaya Equinox for about 3 months now, and I can tell you the difference has been wonderful. And as a phone system engineer, I've seen plenty of poor designs and bad ideas, and I can tell you that Equinox meetings online is not one of them. For those of you who have faithfully attended our Insight monthly hangouts, you already know about this Release 11 discussion that we had in June. If you missed it, then I'll take this opportunity for a shameless shout out to our Agility YouTube page, which contains the webinar video that you're looking at here. During last month's discussion, we touched on Avaya Equinox, which is the newly released communication application that runs on whatever device you want it to run on. It can run on a Windows computer, a Mac, an Android, or an iOS smartphone. And this morning's topic, the Equinox Meeting Online portal, is no different. Equinox Meetings Online can be launched directly from that Equinox application that you see on the screen, PC or smartphone, and I'll be demonstrating how those meetings portals work for you here shortly. So we've arrived at a logical stopping point this morning when we talk about strength and using what works, things that we may already have in place. And a lot of you may be begging a very logical question, and it's fair to throw it out there. The question is, so what? Who cares? Avaya has reinvented the proverbial wheel, right? We've all seen video conferencing before. We've all been in video meetings. We've all had FaceTime and Skype in our pockets on our smartphones for about a decade now. Why should we care? I already have LogMeIn. I already have TeamViewer and any number of other web-based conferencing options with which you may already be familiar, and that's great. The other players in the web-based video conferencing world are certainly fine, but like the song said when we were growing up as children, anything you can do, I can do better. While Equinox can certainly do what those other applications claim to do, they can't do what Equinox does. And I know with Equinox and Agility working together, we can make your meetings effectively go from a cramped space of folks all crowded around a webcam, and we can translate that into basically a concert hall with stadium seating for over 500 people. And that number is not an exaggeration or hyperbole. Between live attendees and streaming capacity of Equinox meetings online, you can present your message either in lecture format or collaboration style to over 500 people at one time. Something to keep in mind is the fact that sometimes you're not in front of a webcam alone on your laptop. Bigger audiences require better cameras. And so you may have a large professional conference space and many folks in that space together. So in order to make that professional and looking as well as it needs to, we need to think about the ratios of aspect cameras that we use these days. So you can see here a comparison of what a laptop webcam might do for you, and then what an actual enterprise video conferencing camera would do. And there's a pretty stark difference there. We've all been spoiled by HD. You know, our TV shows and our movies all look amazing, and it doesn't take a video expert to take a look at something and realize that it doesn't look, quite as good as it could. So this is just an example of one camera option that Avaya has released here with release 11. And, it does a really good job, and we can talk about the specs should you be interested. But that's just something to keep in mind when it comes to these Equinox meetings online that you're having, that, crowding around a webcam or a laptop is not always the best option when it comes to taking full advantage of something as robust as Equinox meetings online. So I want to go ahead and jump into an online meeting example here and show you guys what exactly it is that this thing can do. And I think you're going to like it. So I'm going to switch over here. So give me just a moment, make sure my audio is good, and we will jump in here to a live demo. So there's two basic ways that we can talk about Equinox meetings online, and we're going to jump into one of those ways. The two ways are as a host, and the other way as an attendee. So I'm going to spend about a minute or two here just showing you how we get logged in a kind of abbreviated manner. And if you have any questions about that in the future, I do have some material that I can distribute on that, but I wanted to focus more on the features here. So we'll go ahead and get started. As the host for Equinox meetings online, I'm able to join through a web browser, and you can also join from the Equinox client, which I'll show you in a minute. Your web browser is going to request permission to enable a microphone and camera for your meeting, so we'll go ahead and approve that. Equinox will then announce you as a participant, and there'll be some call handling features for the host that are then accessible over here on the left-hand side of the meeting portal, along with some web sharing tools. The large area on the right is the viewing area for the shared materials during your meeting. The call handling features that are shown here are actually unique to the host. There's several things the host is able to do that the attendees cannot. Lecture mode is an important feature, especially when your meetings begin to grow to a considerable amount of attendees. Again, Equinox meetings online has the capacity to stream to 500 people along with 50 participants, so it becomes important to manage background noise. You can place attendees in listen-only status, you can grant lecturing status to another attendee, and you can even control the meeting in terms of termination and disconnecting any attendees as needed. So let's go ahead and switch over now, and we're going to look at the attendee mode. Your host for the meeting is going to send out an email to join the meeting, which is going to look like the one you see here. As the attendee, you can join the meeting by launching that Equinox desktop client that we talked about last month with R11. So we're going to spend some time here looking at attendee mode and host mode side by side for a bit of stare and compare. So let's pull up our Equinox client from the top of Mine page. You can click on the Join Equinox Meeting, and you'll be pulled into this page here where you can input your email information that your host sent to you. So simply input the meeting address as well as the meeting ID. Click join, and it's going to look like Equinox has made a phone call, and at that point you're going to be joined into the meeting room portal. So you can see the meeting room that I've been joined into looks very similar to the host room that we looked at a moment ago. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze these two windows together. The attendee mode will be on the left, and I'm going to put the host mode over here on the right so we can get these guys side by side and just talk about the differences and some of the features that we'll have built into the tool here. Again, you can see from the host portal on the right the different call handling features and meeting controls that are all listed here. Again, this menu is much more robust and feature-rich than the menu that we're going to see on the attendee side on the left. As we stated earlier, host control has lecturing mode as well as now you can see the other attendees that are in there since I've joined the meeting. The option to mute all attendees on an individual basis is now available since I've joined the meeting and we have multiple folks logged into the room. There's also a hand-raising feature built in. It's similar to what we have on our webinar this morning. You simply toggle that option, and a little hand icon will appear next to your name in the menu that you can see here. And that way, all the attendees as well as the host will see that you have a question. Again, meeting control options are available. You can end the meeting at any time. You can remove participants as needed. And once the meeting is started, you can also lock the meeting in order to make sure nobody else joins the session that's already in progress. Switching over to attendee mode, you can see here the call control features are just not nearly as feature rich. A lot of stuff is grayed out. Again, as an attendee, it's not your job to control the meeting or drive the meeting at all. This is just the basic information on how to control the meeting. Let's go ahead and get started with the good stuff, right? I want to talk for the next couple of minutes about the ways that Equinox does things better. So that's going to be my catchphrase here for the next couple of minutes. One great tool that you're going to find in Equinox Meetings Online is the whiteboard tool. So if you've ever been in a conference setting with customers or maybe colleagues or project managers in a project setting, then you may have had a time when illustrating or drawing out a topic or a discussion may have been very helpful in solving some sort of problem or furthering some kind of discussion. So as a technician for myself, I know that when we work on troubleshooting or designing system architecture, then a rough sketch along with a little bit of impromptu labeling can really be helpful for us to get the ball rolling during a team discussion or a meeting with a customer. So one of those sharing options is this whiteboard tool. And I can always jump in here with a customer or with a teammate and take advantage of this whiteboard tool. For example, the scenario that I'm describing here, I'm able to draw out like a basic network environment. We can take advantage of the text tool up here, and we can even start doing some labeling. We can identify the different network devices that are having problems, or just design space. We can give things IP addresses, and just talk with a customer who might be having problems, for example, with one of their corporate offices, maybe up in New York City, and they're having connection problems, getting back to the call server. So we can talk about the connections that are involved in between the different locations. And on the right-hand side from the host platform, it's important to note that this whiteboard is actually fully interactive. I'm able to jump over here to the host side on the right, and I can input more information. Perhaps the attendee on the left overlooked something, or perhaps we are adding more features to the customer's phone environment, and I can simply draw those features and add them into the whiteboard illustration. So as you can see, back and forth, both parties, all parties are able to interact with the whiteboard tool in a collaborative manner. Another way in which Equinox does things better is the fact that the things that you create in this whiteboard are actually populated in this gray area that you see here, and this is known as the content slider tool. When you use your whiteboard tool over time, the things that you create will populate as thumbnail icons in this area, and you'll be able to reference back to them for future whiteboard sessions that you may have. So, for example, if you have something that you create on the whiteboard that winds up being super useful, or maybe a template that you'd like to use over and over again, you have that option. You can always return to the slider tool to locate those drawings and those diagrams. So the things that you've created will actually be here waiting for you in your Equinox meeting room. And this is not even something that you have to manually manage. Your whiteboard drawings will automatically save on the right-hand side here for the host platform. It'll populate towards the top of that page as well. So I just want to give you guys a quick demonstration of how the slider tool looks and how it works. So if you cease sharing your whiteboard and close it out, then when you return in the future, you can go ahead and share your whiteboard screen again, and you can toggle the content slider right up here at the top of the screen, and you'll see a thumbnail of the diagram that we've created here today. So this is one great example of why I feel that Equinox Meetings Online is a great web conferencing option. So another example, if you've ever had too many things going on your screen at once, as you can see, I've got an email up. Maybe I'm going to join a conference and I need to share my screen all of a sudden. I'm just not prepared to do so. You can select and customize in Equinox the things that the portion of your screen that you want to see. Maybe I've got a message that pops up from a colleague and I don't want everyone on my conference to see that. I can use this tool right here to drag and drop and kind of customize what it is I want my conference participants to see. I can even go further there and choose which window they can see inside of the portion of the screen that I've chosen. And there's also a keyboard and mouse control option. So anybody who gains control of my computer is actually only going to be able to access the area of my screen that I authorize. So from the screen sharing menu, you can go ahead and toggle the person that you want to share with, the colleague that you need to have looking at your screen. And as a result, a small portion of your screen should be viewable from the host platform here on the right. So I'm going to toggle over here, and it's a little bit little bit of a cramped, zoomed in view, but you kind of get the idea. Since we're doing this for presentation purposes, it's a little bit cramped. Again, we still have the traditional options of sharing an entire monitor. You can also toggle certain applications if you want to do it that way. You can just choose an individual program that you want to share with one of your participants. So you have a lot of customizable options. There's been some really good thought and consideration put into the Equinox Meetings Online platform here. So just a really great design space, in my opinion, with what Avaya has done in order to let us be more effective with our time throughout the day. So I'm confident, having used Equinox in my daily routine for the past few months, that this solution really makes sense for you guys, and this is the reason why. You're already using a phone system, right? You already have a phone on your desk. You already meet with clients and colleagues in a remote manner, and sometimes you use video conferencing for that solution. Much like our friend Pierce here from earlier, my question becomes why, Pierce was trying to use a computer solely for email. Is he also going to use a computer that's solely dedicated to spreadsheets, and then he has another computer for web browsing? Like, that's just silly and unsustainable. But what we do could also be viewed as silly and unsustainable if we're not properly educated as to what's available, right? Emails, calendar, phone calls, messaging, remote collaboration, those are all 5 highly utilized and business critical needs that can all be solved with Avaya Equinox. So this is just a great option, in my opinion, for solving some problems that I know we all have every day. So hopefully this live demo has created a bit of interest for you guys this morning. Perhaps it's even stirred up some thoughtful discussion in regards to what it is that you do every day to balance your meetings with time efficiency. Moving forward, if Equinox becomes something that you'd like to discuss down the road, and you want to talk about the details, getting that implemented, certainly I hope you guys will give Agility a chance to do that with you. I know that myself or any number of my teammates, we'd be glad to see what it is that can be done for you guys. So we'll go ahead and move into our question and answer section. I wanted to keep this short and sweet so that you guys could see what's possible with Equinox Meetings Online. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to hang out for a couple of minutes and talk about that with you guys. And again, I do have the handout attached to our webinar this morning. And if anybody needs a copy of that emailed to you for any reason, just shoot me a chat message here in the webinar, and I'll be happy to take your contact info and send that out to you if you need me to. So I've got time to hang out for probably 10 or 15 minutes for any questions that you guys have that you want to throw out there. We kind of did a little bit of a group question and answer session last time. It was nice and interactive for a couple of minutes. So anybody that has any interests or curiosities, we can definitely talk about those right now. My email information is still available right here. So there we go. Okay, thank you, Wyatt. Let me take a look here at your question. Okay, so one of our questions here is, if someone is traveling remotely on the road and they can only call in, is that possible without an app? The answer to that would be, yes, you can certainly call in to an Equinox meeting online. There is a phone number that you can dial, and there's actually quite a few phone numbers depending on which country you're in. Equinox is still working on getting it plugged in worldwide, but a lot of the main industrial nations, there's plenty of phone numbers that are listed there. So yeah, without the application, you can call in directly, and if you have the application installed on your phone, then you can, you have further features that are available to you because of the application being involved. So I would say yes to that. I appreciate you guys all hanging in through the whole session this morning, through the whole webinar. Try to keep it as fun, as interesting as I can for you guys, and I really appreciate seeing everybody each month. We'll be sending out our invitation for next month's webinar, and we'll choose a topic. Again, if you guys ever have any interest or suggestions about things that we can spend our time discussing, there's really nothing too silly or unfamiliar for us. We're happy to go over anything that might be of a challenge for you guys, or anything that you just need further detail on. We can always schedule a time to go over that. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. I really appreciate you guys being here, and we will talk to you guys next month on our next Insight webinar. Thanks again for being here. Take care.